guys, it's Juan here. Today I'm going to go over of how I enter and exit my plays on the 1 minute chart. Later on we'll be going over 3 minute and 5 minute, but today I will be focusing on the 1 minute. This is a play that I actually did take today in regards to an upside break from this trend line using change of character to be able to capitalize on that momentum shift. And I just want to go ahead and go over, this is replay mode. I didn't record this live, but hey, I mean, it's still the same thing, right? So let's go ahead and go over in regards to what I was looking for and how I like to play these breakouts to the upside, especially these trendline breakouts here. So here what you're noticing is that bearish structure is still following, right? Those lower highs and lower lows is still continuing here. You're seeing that it is under the VWAP and under 200. I went ahead and labeled what I have right now, which is the red is the 20 EMA. Green is 9 EMA, blue is 200 EMA, orange is VWAP. And I primarily use market structure as my guide as to what I would be looking for, but I do use confluence with EMAs, supply and demand zones, etc., just to support my thesis a little bit more. So let's go ahead and take a look at this play here, which is a breakout. But I'm going to go ahead and go step by step in regards to what I am looking for in on these type of breakouts. So for this to continue, I am looking for it to create a lower high to go ahead and break down to the downside and make a lower low, right? So let's go ahead. Notice what the 9 EMA is doing, the 20 EMA. Keep an eye on those. You are seeing that the 20 EMA currently is above the 9 EMA on the 1 minute, which is, for me, that is bearish momentum. Because, for instance, here with the 9 EMA, it can break the 9 EMA, but you'll still have that 20 EMA as resistance. Whereas on upside, you'll have the 20 EMA as support, and then the 9 EMA is also support, but you have this more as like a defined risk in a sense. Where here's also, if you were to go short, you would be looking at this as a potential stop. But today, we're looking at these breaks on these EMAs here. So let me go ahead and see what happens next, right? I'm just going to take this candle per candle and then just explain what I'm looking for. All right, so what I'm looking for here is for this to break down and continue a bearish structure, right? But what I am actually noticing here is that you're getting these lower wicks as well as these hammers here, which is, you're seeing that price action is being held up. And they're not really pushing this down here. So what do we get next, right? Let's see here. So here you already broke this previous low. So for me, this is already that first step of change of character. You're failing to make a lower low, and you're actually pushing up in this momentum shift here. So let's go ahead and just take a look. Keep an eye out on the 9 EMAs and how it reacts. So you seeing here, the 9 EMA is being held as resistance. Yes, it's also being, it's going through the middle of these candles, but it's not being broken through. Whereas here, let's go ahead and take a look and see what, you see the 9 EMA and the 20 EMA, they're looking downward. And here they're starting to go ahead and find their level in a sense. So let's go ahead and take a look at what would be happening next here. You have two dojis in a row. Let's see what happens here. All right, so we have this shift here, this candle here to the bottom, and you also see that it is still being held by this demand zone here, right? So it still has not created a lower low, right? But it did break through that previous low. So let's go ahead and take a look and see what's happening. Okay, see, so now here you're looking for a potential breakout. You're looking at it at double bottom breakout, right, at the 9 EMA. Let's see how it reacts with the 200 here. The 200 does act as resistance as well, which SPY does love. SPY loves VWAP and 200, so let's just keep an eye on those as well. Okay, here we go. So here we get the breakout, right? If you missed this move, you had the double bottom here, you had the 9 EMA. That's fine, right? Once it breaks out, it has to come back down and go ahead and retest this area. Has to come down and retest this area and give you that higher low for it to continue that upside structure, right? So here it's already also following that breakout structure. Let's see what happens here next. Okay, so now look at the 90 EMA and the 20 EMA, right? And where price action is on these EMAs. So here you have the 90 EMA under, the 20 EMA above, but you're seeing price action now start basing on top. So here, I like to look at this as the resistance, the fight, see what's going to happen. And now here, it's beginning to hold as support. So now here for my entries that I like to look for me to be able to feel good in entering this. And if it doesn't go my way, that's fine because I followed my rules, right? And also notice the 200 EMA as a potential resistance as well, which can also turn into support. But what I like to look for is when the 90 EMA is above the 20 EMA. For instance, here, you see, like here, you have the 20 EMA still rejecting it, but it breaks out, it comes back down, creates a flag. Creates a flag here and breaks to the upside, but you have the 9 up crossing over the 20 EMA. And let's go ahead and take a look at what would happen next here. Okay, so we have that retest, and notice that the 90 EMA is still not above the 20, right? So for me, this is still continuing that bearish sentiment within the EMAs, right? Price action is totally different, but for me, what I like to also look for is that momentum shift in the EMAs as well. And you can clearly see where it's bouncing from, which is this demand zone here. So now let's go ahead and play again. And now for this to continue in uptrend structure, we cannot break this down here, right? If it breaks this down here, this would be invalidating this continuation of structure because now we have that higher high from this bearish structure, we're looking for a higher low, right? So this is what we would be basing. This is where I like to base my risk from, right? We have that wick zone. That's what I like to call and look for as well. But you also have this, I guess, stronger demand. That's what you can refer to in this zone here. But you can clearly see that it is not coming down here. Rather, it's being pushed up and it is holding this demand here. All right, so let's go ahead and take a look here. What would happen next? Okay, right. Let's see here. So it has yet to break this down demand here. And with these candles, you did get that small liquidity down here just to go ahead and get it. For instance, if you were to enter, for me, like I'm still stating, I would like for the 90 EMA to cross above the 20 EMA. Here you are noticing that the 200 EMA is still also being held as that resistance. Let's see if it goes ahead and breaks it. But here you are noticing that this is a flag, right? Like the same thing right here. Once it breaks out, you're looking for that higher low, which here it still technically is still placing that higher low here. So take a look here. Right? It still has not broken down here for it to fail that continuation. Rather, it's still being held up. And now here it's looking to go ahead and break this 200 EMA and gain this momentum from this liquidity here to be able to take to the upside, right? So let's go ahead and notice what is happening here. So right now we're getting in this range, but you're noticing that the structure is moving up, right? It's not pushing down, it's holding, right? And with confluence of the breakout. So let's take a look here once again. Oh, sorry. Okay. Now here you're noticing that the 9 EMA is beginning to cross above the 20, right? Take a look here. And also look at the price action. Let's see what a doji. Okay, a hammer. See, this is for me, this is a prime entry for me. I'm okay to risk this here. And if, for instance, if it breaks down, I will go ahead and cut it. And if it goes again on, like for instance, if it breaks to the upside, I will 84% this. But here you have the 9 crossing above the 20. You have the 200 here. You have this hammer here, this doji, where this is a good entry for me, right? Because for instance, let's say once it breaks this 200 EMA, it'll gain this momentum to the upside. And a target that I'm looking for here, for instance, for my first scale out would be VWAP. These zones here, these are my hourly zones on SPY, not zones, but support and resistance lines that I like to look for as well for when they do break, right? Okay, look perfect, right? So what do we get here? As soon as it crosses the 9 above the 20, we get that retest on the 20 EMA as that support. It breaks the 200, it gains up, it stops right here at my 1 hour resistance, but let's see what it goes ahead and do, right? And it breaks this, right? It breaks this previous higher high. So now this is continuing that uptrend structure, right? Now let's take a look here. And this is another wick zone. The same way that this wick zone is being made here, it's also being made here within these candles. Perfect, right? We get that breakout from here, from this move. We get that retest to confirm. We have the 9 above the 20, price action above, right? We're following change of character within this area here to be able to play that upshift momentum, right? So now what are we going to look for again? Here, let's go ahead and take a look what's bound to happen. Okay, now I was saying SPY loves VWAP in 200, right? So now here it's being held as resistance here. Let's see what it goes ahead and does. Okay, so here now you can begin to draw a flag, right? And this is how you can capitalize on, let's say you missed this move and you would like to take another, for instance, let's say, hey, let's go ahead and take this VWAP break to the upside, but you're basically basing it off of that structure to the upside. You're basing it off of the 9 EMA being above the 20. Well, that's what I would like to look for. I'm not saying that you're necessarily basing it off yourself, but this is what I like to look for. So here you have that flag. Oh, here we go, right? And like I'm saying, stated, when you're coming on the downtrend, you're looking for these demand zones to go ahead and scale out. But on uptrend breaks, you're looking for these supply zones, right? Because that's where the liquidity is. So that's another place where you can start scaling out again as well, right? So you're getting the VWAP where you can scale out. I'm getting this 1 hour support and resistance level that I can potentially scale out on as well. And then these are just scaling points that you can actually exit from this, because you're basically looking for these supply zones. For instance, this one up here, this up here, those are all supply zones for you to be able to go ahead and look for. So let's just keep going on what this is actually doing. And like I've stated, it's just flag breaks to the upside and still using that bullish structure to the upside, which is just, and that's exactly what it's doing. And you're just using these flag breakouts from this trend line, this flag breakout, which is that retest to the upside. And those are just things to look for. You're seeing that sellers are pushing in. Let's see what happens here. All right, and now we're going to look for that change of structure here if it were to break down to the downside and continue here. But here, for instance, I do recall from earlier as well that I had posted, I like to also use fibs. And you can see exactly where it went ahead and held, which is that golden fib ratio, the 0.50 and the 0.618 golden fib ratio. And for these I tend to target that 1.272, but per se, if it keeps continuing that uptrend structure, you can go ahead and look for the 1.618, the 2.618, and here you're noticing exactly where it's being held as that resistance, where you can also look as a potential target if you didn't have that price action, right? So for instance, these zones here, if I didn't have this price action here currently, you would still be able to see where this is where you can potentially take those profits using these fibs, right? Which is that 2.618 up here, the 1.618, the 1.272. But that is what I like to look for in breakouts with confluence of the 90 EMA. And here, like you stated, you're noticing that the 90 EMA is above the 20. Now it's above the 200 here as well, so that's gaining that momentum. And that would telling me like, hey, look, for instance, this was perfect, right? You're getting, let me take this out just so I can go recap over this play once again before I'm here. So let's go ahead and take a look. You get the breakout, you get that retest, you get the change of character happening in this area. And now you are following that uptrend structure, right? You're looking for that continuation to the upside. So you are able to go ahead and look for that to be able to capitalize on this play or on any uptrend. I apologize, and any trend line breakouts to the upside or downside. I like to look for this also when it's inverse. I'm just going to go ahead and quickly show. I'd be looking for the same thing, right? When the 9 is above, I apologize. When the 9 is below the 20, I look for the same things. I'm looking for those for the failure of a higher high and change of character within this area to the downside. But that is what I like to look for on my breakouts and how I like to play these on the 1 minute. Thank you.